Yes, hello, welcome everybody. It's Chris here from the Ministry of Dice. I'm back again today with another one of my video presentation thingamadoodads. And in today's video, as you can see on the screen there, I'm going to be talking about ways to clear a board in Dice Masters. Specifically, modern legal ways, stuff that's legal in the modern card set that at this moment in time of recording. I've been brewing some teams up and I've been thinking about it lately, and I've been trying to clear boards. I've got some beat sticks that I want to drive some damage through, and the only way I'm going to get it done is by getting rid of all my opponent's stuff. And so it's been right at the forefront of my mind, and I thought I'd make a video about it. Now, if you're new to the scene or relatively new to the game, just to explain the terminology, when we use the phrase clear a board, what we're talking about is effects that will removal effects that will get rid of many dice, so not just kind of removal in the sense of spot removal to get rid of a pest or get rid of something that you're not liking on the other side of the table, but to set yourself up for an attack, eliminate as much of your opponent's field as possible so that they are whittled down to the bare minimum, if not nothing at all, so that you can drive your dice through completely undefended and do as much damage as possible. So that's when I'm referring to clear a board, that's what I'm referring to. And so let's get into it. Let's talk about some combos. Let's share some cards that I've been playing around with lately to clear boards. And I'm going to start with what's fashionable at the moment, and that's the spin down mechanic that was brought into the game by Infinity Gauntlet. There's a couple of examples on the screen there. We've got Spider-Man and Pip the Troll, but there's a few more in the set, in the Infinity Gauntlet set. You've got a Doctor Strange, there's a Black Widow, there's an Adam Warlock, I think. And these are very popular because they are proving to be great removal options, spot removal options, but they can also be awesome board clear options as well. Now, the particular thing about this mechanic is that it's an enormous pain in the arse for your opponent, because not only does it remove the thing that you're trying to remove, whether it's to clear the board or whether it's spot removal, but it's also dropping it into their reserve pool as energy so that in the clear up it goes to their use pile, and it's getting rid of it not just for that moment in time, but potentially for a couple of turns. Spider-Man's great. He triggers his effect, his spin down effect, when he attacks, although in order to clear a board you're going to need a couple of Spider-Men in the field to be really efficient with that. Pip the Troll's probably a little bit more under the kind of board clear umbrella because he has a larger area of effect by spinning down two opposing character dice, so he can just have that little bit more of an impact in terms of clearing the board. Thing with Spider-Man though is that when attacks abilities are really difficult to counter at this moment in time, they're a real struggle to stop, at least until the super rare Wonder Woman turns up in the Kryptonite Crisis set, and God knows how long that's going to be. That Wonder Woman, incidentally, is a super rare that was exclusively revealed by the Ministry of Dice as a spoiler for the Kryptonite Crisis set. If you're interested in the spoiler work that we do, you can head on over to BritRoller6.com, hit the Unreleased Set Spoilers button in the top title bar, and that'll take you to all the galleries of all the spoilers that we've collected and gathered, including all the exclusives that we were given by WizKids to share with you as a thank you to our lovely viewers, readers, and listeners. So there you go, little plug in there. Hope you enjoyed that. I expect to see you over at the site soon. But yeah, spin down is a great way of removing dice, and it's proving very efficient, very powerful as a way of clearing boards too. 2 or 3 Spider-Men, 2 or 3 Pip the Trolls rotating around, one Pip the Troll really can be pretty devastating, is a way to just really thin out the field on your opponent's side of the table so they've got less and less defensive options when you want to drive your beat stick through. So there we go, spin down mechanics. Let's talking about fashionable stuff. Let's talk about something that was really popular about 2 years ago, and that's Rachel Summers' Prestige from the X-Men Forever campaign box. Now, she reads, while Rachel Summers is active, if another X-Men character is KO'd, KO all other characters. And she was a super popular combo with this pair. We've got Hope Summers, Pluripotent Echopraxia, who copies X-Men game text, and you've got Nylor here, who's got the global where you can pay a mask, and once per turn you can KO a character die you control. So the idea was that you got Hope out, she copied Rachel Summers, therefore just kind of reducing the purchase cost pain of Rachel Summers' 7 cost. You would then use the Nylor Global as your KO mechanic to kill X-Men characters so that you would just have that devastating Rachel Summers effect. You do it in your opponent's turn, so that they would lose all their characters, and then anything that you had in the field you would re-roll in, or you'd set it up so that you knew what you were getting the following turn. You know, you're going to have some strong characters. So a real high risk, high reward strategy. It was quite intensive though. I mean, by the time you've got 3 cards on your team just to initiate the board clear combo, and a lot of people also look for another X-Men character, you know. But if you think about the way it pans out, you have to buy and field a Hope Summers, copy Rachel Summers, then buy and field a second Hope Summers or another X-Men character so that you got some KO fodder to use with the Nihilor Global. Then you needed some stuff that you could re-roll in your turn after you'd initiated it in your opponent's go to drive your attack through, so your big beat sticks or your high attack characters. And if you really wanted to then ramp up to Rachel Summers, you needed to start loading up a bit more ramp into the team, and it became a very difficult team to put together because you were sort of losing 3 or 4 card slots right out the gate when you were building it, and the risk and reward. I saw some people playing around with like Regenerate as a way of dealing with it, but I don't think that really paid off. So super effective at clearing boards, but doesn't just clear your opponent's board, clears your board. But if you want something fun, daft, really wacky to have a go at, and you love the risk versus reward gamble of rolling your dice in after you've cleared your opponent's board in their go, then give it a try. It's definitely a lot of fun. It wasn't quite what I was looking for though for the teams that I was brewing recently. Right, let's talk about Intimidate next. And there's a lot of Intimidate cards. This is probably the one that's about clearing boards as much as it is about just kind of spot removal in your go. The Yellow Lantern Ring is a 2-cost bolt, the Weaponer's Ring subtitle. Character dice in your reserve pool gain Intimidate. So what you're looking to do there, because it's nice and cheap, is just get yourself a situation where your reserve pool is filled with characters ready to be fielded, and you fire off the Yellow Lantern Ring and then just start intimidating characters out in your go so that the board is clear for you to then initiate an attack and do a hell of a lot of damage. Now that's the thing with Intimidate. Intimidate's great removal, but it's removal that's only in your go. So it's really super designed. I mean, the name of the keyword Intimidate alone is on theme, because the idea is that you use it in your go to clear the boards, clear character dice out so that you can get damage through. It's not really spot removal to get rid of stuff. It's just spot removal to get rid of defenders, really. So Yellow Lantern Ring, great if you're playing a lot of weenies or you're in a position where you can generate a lot of characters in your reserve pool ready to field and kick off the Yellow Lantern Ring Intimidate. There are some other examples though. I've seen this guy, The Rock, Know Your Role, used to great effect in an online tournament that we organised a few months back. He reads Intimidate, but then you may use Intimidate twice when you field The Rock. So he's just got that kind of extra little, let's ping out 2 characters with the added kind of ramp global in there for a bit of value too. Yeah, I saw this used really powerfully because he's also the muscle behind it too. So once you've intimidated the characters, you've got a big, beefy, statted rock ready to go through and do some damage, which I thought was really interesting. I have also, on 1 or 2 occasions, seen this guy used as board clear. Gazer, Evil Familiar, very well known as a cheap, easy Intimidate character. He's the kind of go-to for removing Godcatcher tokens when they hit the field. That's another thing about Intimidate, is it gets rid of token characters. But I've actually seen people kind of line up 2 or 3 of these by buying them, getting them in the field, then KOing them and sort of lining up a prep area with a load of them in, and then just bombing the field with 3 gazers and clearing 3 things out. A lot more setup, a lot more of a pain in the backside, and perhaps not something to rely on in a kind of competitive sense, but certainly another example, because it's cheap, of using Intimidate to clear more than 1 character away. So yeah, Intimidate's interesting. I've definitely seen Yellow Lantern Ring used to great effect to clear a board, to make way for big stuff to go through and do lots and lots of damage. The Rock, like I say, did very well in a recent MOD PDM tournament we ran online, so that was great to see this kind of more obscure WWE card get a little bit of light of day. And perhaps something that you want to think about. Just remember though that Intimidate really, because it's on your go, only benefits you if you need to get rid of stuff in your turn. It doesn't have it's not board clear that can be used as removal too, if you know what I mean. So yeah, one to have a look at. All right, what's next on my list? Ooh, yes, Poison Ivy, Criminal Because of Love. Now, she's a really interesting character. When fielded, you may KO a character die you control. If you do, deal damage equal to the KO'd character die's level to target opponent and all the character dice that opponent controls. And look at those fielding costs, 0.01. So she's lovely and cheap to field. Now, the beautiful thing here is that Poison Ivy can KO herself. So you can field Poison Ivy, KO Poison Ivy, and just use it as a single card and dice combo to initiate 1, 2, or 3 damage across the entire board over the field and to your opponent. Now, this can really start to add up. Certainly if your opponent's using lots of kind of little weenies as blockers and stuff, straight away just on level 1, that's all the sidekicks gone, all the little weenies gone. But get 2 or 3 of these rolling around. I've definitely seen instances. I'm looking at you, Duncan. You know. You remember, I've seen instances where someone has had 2 or 3 of these Poison Ivies rattling around and has managed to kind of trigger one at level 2, do 2 damage to everything. Trigger another one at level 1, do 1 damage to everything. Trigger the last one at level 3, deal 3 to... Oh, everything's taken 6 damage. You got nothing left. La 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 la. There you go. There's 20 damage walking over the field at you. So that might seem a little bit like, whoa, what are you talking about, Chris? Because it's a 5 cost and that's a lot of rattling around. But that's not so challenging when you use the mask discounter that is Asuka from the WWE set. Bit of a crutch for mask characters, but that makes those Poison Ivies a 3 cost. So you can buy as many as you like. And look at that max die count. It's a 5 max die. So you could have the potential with an Asuka in the field to just be buying Poison Ivies up to 5 dice worth and have them rolling around. And because you KO it, it goes back to the prep area, ready for use next turn. This is a great way of keeping boards nice and thin, clearing them out, ready for your own attacks, but also the added value that she does a little bit of chip damage to your opponent too. So I love this card. I've been playing around with it lots and lots and lots, and I definitely think it's one that you guys should have a go with. Not just because she's a bit of a win condition herself, but also because she can really keep a board nice and thin on the opponent's side of the table. Yes, Poison Ivy, big double thumbs up from Chris. Right, okay, what's next? Oh, here's another one I've been playing around with that I really love, Seething Corruption. Until the end of the turn, when an opposing character die takes damage, KO it. It's a 4-cost basic action, and I've been comboing this up recently with this guy on the left, Manchun, Clone Wizard. So while Manchun is active, when you use a basic action die, deal 1 damage to all opposing character dice. So the idea is pretty simple here. Buy a Manchun, get him in the field, buy a Seething Corruption, fire off the Seething Corruption. The Seething Corruption triggers Manchun's damage game effect, and then the damage that he does to the dice means that they all get KO'd, even though it's only 1 damage. It's quite an expensive combo. It's an 8 purchase cost in total, but super, super effective and a lot of fun. And you can do things to make it a bit cheaper. You can use stuff like Thor Global to get the Seething Corruption cheaper. Now, on the right-hand side, as you can see, I've got Venerable Dreadnought there. I've seen this combo used, but with Venerable Dreadnought instead. And he gives, or it gives, it? Is it an it? A he? Is it a robot? Or is there a person in there? I don't really know, man. 40k lore, but while Venerable Dreadnought is active, your active character dice have range 1. So if you've got a wide field of your own, you get your Venerable Dreadnought out, and as they attack, they all just fire off a single ping. You just start allocating that ping to lots of different characters on the other side of the board, and the Seething Corruption kind of active effect will then just KO them. And because it's when an opposing character die takes damage, your guys can just get pinged at with impunity, and you can, have your merry way with your opponent's team. Now, I prefer Manchun because you trigger it before you get to the attack steps. I feel like there's just a little bit more control on your part, less opportunity for a priority to be passed for your opponent so they can run a bit of interference. I've definitely seen Venerable Dreadnoughts messed around with before it gets to the attack steps, so they can't really use the range game text. So, something to think about. Also, I like the fact that Manchun, you can trigger him with some other basic actions as well. So I've seen people chuck on like throne bricks or pings, just as a cheap backup if you want to just continue doing damage to your opponent's field. So if you can't get your Seething Corruption off, well, maybe you might roll 2 or 3 throne bricks in a go and do 3 damage across the board. It's, again, a lot of setup, a lot of dice investment, but it's a plan B opportunity for using Manchun. So I prefer Manshoon because I've got a bit more control on it in my go. I get to use it in my main step before it gets to the attack step, and so I can do stuff before I pass priority. But Venerable Dreadnought has definitely proven useful. Also, the Venerable Dreadnought needs a wide field, and sometimes what I'm trying to do is get one or two kind of large beat sticks through uninterfered with. I did it with some God Catchers lately. I know. Forgive me, my lord, for I have sinned. But I did it with some God Catchers, and I got a Manshoon out, bought a Seething Corruption, then dropped a couple of God Catcher tokens out, and I just fired off Seething Corruption, cleared the board, and walked 2 God Catchers over for 20 damage. Not cool, not fun for me or my opponent. Well, perhaps less fun for my opponent than me, but just, I was able to do it before anything even went down, before my opponent was able to do anything. So, an interesting one. That's probably my favourite at the moment, Seething Corruption Manshoon. If you take a look at our videos, our gameplay videos on YouTube, you'll see I've used it a few times in the last sort of year and a half, 2 years, as a kind of board clear option to help me keep my opponent's board low, but Venerable Dreadnought is another alternative. I've also seen some people use Grey Hunter, actually, from Warhammer 40k. I've not got him illustrated on the screen, but when you KO Grey Hunter, he does 1 damage to everything on the other side of the board. And I've seen people KO him using things like Nihilor Global and do it that way. Now, he's a bit nicer because he's just a 2-cost, so he's less investment to get into the team, get into the field, but he does require a means of KOing him like the Nihilor Global. So if you're looking at your card efficiency across your team, Manshoon Seething Corruption is a 2-card combo, whereas Seething Corruption, Grey Hunter, and Nihilor is a 3-card combo. Wow, that took a long time just to get to the point there. So yeah, there you go, Manshoon, Seething Corruption. I've just dropped my pen. Let's move on to my last notable mention. It wouldn't be a Ministry of Dice video if I didn't talk about clearing boards in a theme way. And one thing I have loved playing around with since the Justice box came out, although this was the Doom Patrol team pack that this guy was in, was this guy. Green Arrow, no fancy ring. When fielded, deal X damage to each opposing character die, where X is the number of your active Justice League characters other than Green Arrow. That's amazing. If you're playing a single affiliation Justice League team, you have now got a way of clearing a board to get all those big beefy Supermen and Batmen and Wonder Women across the field to kill your opponent. Now, this ties together really, really well because you've got great cards like Aquaman that lets you discount and get your Justice League characters bought for cheaper. There's a Batman that lets you get your characters bought and fielded for cheaper. And so you can really build up a wide Justice League field. One thing I've particularly enjoyed doing is using the Hawkman, who gets +1 attack for every other Justice League character. So you get a couple of Hawkmen out with a few supporting characters like Wonder Woman and you wouldn't want Wonder Woman because she'll cancel the when fielded on Green Arrow. But you'd want maybe a Batman, an Aquaman, whatever else takes your fancy. Really, throw a Cyborg in for shits and giggles, and then drop a Green Arrow in the field. Boom! 4 damage to everything across on the other side of the board, and then just wander over with your big beefy attack stats. And then they're no slouches, and especially with Hawkman then getting his bonus. So yeah, really, really fun. If you want to try and clear, if you're into board clear and you're trying to board clear in a themey way, then that's my notable mention. Certainly not one that you'd use competitively particularly, but Green Arrow, no fancy ring, has been a lot of fun. I love making Justice League teams with this guy as my kind of big finisher. And I recommend that you do too. All right then, folks. Well, there we are. I'll wrap that one up there. I hope you enjoyed my little video about modern ways to clear a board in Dice Masters. We do lots and lots of content of this nature, so if you've enjoyed what you've seen today, please do take the time to give me a little thumbs up and subscribe if you're not subscribed already. It's just 2 clicks for you, but it means so much for me, and it really helps the future of the channel carry on, and it also helps us get in front of the eyes of new audience members, and who wouldn't want to help us do that? Remember, BritRoller6.com is the centre of all this. This is where most of the Ministry of Dice stuff goes out, so go check out the website there. Listen to the podcast every 2 weeks, and I'll see you guys again soon. Oh, actually, before I go, let me know in the comments below, how do you like to clear a board? I'd love to know. Anything I've missed out there, or any combos that you've got that are really sweet ways to clear a board, particularly in Modern? Drop it in the comments below. Right, now I'm going to finish for proper. Take it easy, folks.